Hello everyone. Today I am here to talk about 3 recent reads, and all of them are going to be thrillers. So I'm talking about my 3 most recent thriller reads. So as you can tell by the title that I didn't really like any of these, but I still want to talk about them because they're all really anticipated. One's been out for a while, 2 are really new, and let's talk about them. As always, these are going to be spoiler free. I'll leave timestamps down below in case you want to hear about one particular book. The books I'll be talking about today are The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, and The Golden Couple by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. So the first book, The Kind Worth Killing, I read this because this is a lot of people's favorite thrillers. Like when I hear about people's thrillers list, this book is on there. And so I decided to read it finally because you guys know I'm really trying to make an emphasis on backlist books this year. And this one came out 5 years ago maybe, and I read it and I wasn't overly impressed with it. Book we have we follow multiple characters, but we follow mainly Ted. And at the beginning of the book, Ted is at an airport and he's not having the best time. We learn that his wife has been recently cheating on him, and so he starts up a conversation with a woman at the bar named Lily. And he's like, he confides in her because he's like, I'm never gonna see this girl again because we're on an airplane, things like that. And so he confides in her and she's like, well, what do you want to do? He's like, I want to kill her. And she's like, all right, let me help you with that. And it kind of goes off from there. It's kind of, I know this book was inspired by a movie, I want to say Strangers on an Airplane or Strangers on a Train, something like that. But either way, we kind of go into this twisted tale of Ted and Lily maybe plotting his wife's murder, and we kind of go from there. And overall, I gave this book a 3 out of 5. It was okay. It's one of the very few thrillers I've read where I got to the last page and I was reading on ebook, and then I went to go to the next chapter and that was the end of the book. And I was like, that's how it's going to leave off. It leaves off such an ambiguous ending and very open-ended and kind of, you want more from it. I will say that. So I did enjoy the ending. Like, I was very mad about it at first. I was like, that's how he's going to end it. But then I was like, well, man, it makes me think. It makes me want more. So kudos to that. But I saw a lot of the plot twists coming. I wasn't like overly surprised by anything. I just didn't love it as much as I was expecting to love it. Does that make sense? Like, I wanted to love it more because, like I said, it's a lot of people's one of their favorite thrillers of all time. Overall, I just found it kind of just okay. It wasn't definitely one of the worst thrillers I've read, but it wasn't one of the best. And I've heard a lot with Peter Swanson books, like this is like his best one. I've heard his recent ones people have not enjoyed at all, so it kind of makes me not want to read more of his books because I didn't overly love this one. So if you've read any of his books and would recommend one in particular, I'm willing to give his books a try because I do like his writing and I did like the overall plot of this, but I just didn't love it, if you get what I'm saying. So if you have one of his that you just love and adore, let me know, because honestly the last few of his he's released have not got the best ratings. But there you have it. I gave it 3 out of 5. And then we have one of the thrillers I was most anticipating for the entire year, and that is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. She released The Guest List, which came out last year, I think last year, maybe the year before, and I loved it. I gave it a 5 out of 5. It's very rare for me to give thrillers 5 out of 5 because I guess I'm just picky. I don't know, but I'm not an expert at all, so take my reviews with a grain of salt. But I love The Guest List, and so I was very anticipating this one, and I did not enjoy it at all. I would probably give it a 2.5 out of 5. It reminded me so much of one of her other books, The Hunting Party, which I read after The Guest List because I love The Guest List so much, and I loathe that book. Like, oh my gosh. Lucy Foley has a way of writing really unlikable characters, and that's not to say it's going to make or break a novel, because I've read plenty of books, especially thrillers, where it's unlikable characters, but I somehow still love the book and am very invested in it. And I think it all depends on how you write it and just how it comes across. This book, like, I just didn't care about it. I didn't find it overly mysterious. The ending was predictable. I didn't care. So this book, we follow a character named Jess. I think her name's Jess. Yes. And she is not doing well, so she decides to like go live with her brother in Paris. He's got this Paris apartment, and so he's like, yeah, come on up, I'll be here waiting for you. You can live with me for a little bit. And so when she gets there, he's not there, and she's like, what the heck? Like, he was supposed to be here. And so she basically tries to figure out where her brother has gone. And the more she learns about the apartment tenants, because there's only a few of them, the more she's like, something's really weird about this apartment building. And it's very odd. It's such an odd setup, and the way it all plays out at the end, I was just like, it was just like meh. For me, that's exactly how I felt with this book. I just didn't love it. So I gave it a 2.5 out of 5. I just, it didn't make me nearly as mad as The Hunting Party. Like that book, when I read that book, like I loathed every character in that book. Like it got to the point when that book, I was like, I don't care what happens to any of these characters. I really don't. It's horrible to say, that's how I felt. This book, like I cared a little bit, but there was no real like you got a little bit of depth with Jess, but not a ton. And I was like, you need more. I need more about this. And all of her other characters were just so unlikable that it was like, you know, I just didn't care as much. And that sounds horrible, but I don't know. Lucy Foley, I think like she was so great with the guest list, I think because of the big plot twist at the end. I think that's what made me really love that book. And then the setting, the atmosphere, she writes that really well. And you know, there was unlikable characters in that book, but those other things kind of overtook it and made it amazing. And this book just wasn't there for me. So sadly, I was very disappointed in this one. Like I was so sad. Then we have The Golden Couple by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. I have read, I want to say like 2 or 3 of their books before. I really enjoyed their first one, The Wife Between Us. I really liked that one. And the other 2 I read, I did not love. So this one I was very hesitant to read, but the library had it. So I was like, why not give it a try? Overall, again, meh. All these books I read in this video were just kind of like meh. I was not happy with any of them really. Like I'm not mad I read them by any means, but they just weren't amazing. You know what I'm saying? So this one we follow in this one we follow 2 characters. We follow a character named Avery, who was a therapist, or she was a therapist. She got her license revoked, and she's got this very intense way of doing therapy. Like she has like 10 sessions and she names them all, and it's just really intense. And then we follow another character named Marissa, who her and her husband go to this therapist, and she tells him, hey, like I cheated on you. And so it kind of goes from there. So you get a perspective of Avery with this couple who's like a very revered couple in DC. They're very high up. Marissa, they have a son, and you also follow Marissa as she's going through this marriage. You're trying to figure out like why she cheated. Is her husband really who he says he is? Like what exactly is there underneath the surface? It was very surface level. There wasn't a lot to it. And like the end again was predictable 100%. It was kind of meh. It wasn't really a thriller in my opinion. It was I always get this wrong. Domestic thriller? Is that how you say it? But it just wasn't like overly thrilling or anything. It's more of like a in-depth look of a couple and trying to figure out like why they are the way they are. And even still with that, you didn't get a ton of in-depthness, if that makes any sense. It just was just So this kind of solidifies the fact that I'm kind of not loving their books. I think, you know, I read one by them and I really enjoyed it, and then the other ones, it's been now like 3 or 4 I've read that I've been kind of like, and I'm trying to make a little rule with myself now with thrillers especially. If I've read a lot by an author and I don't enjoy it, it's okay, let that be done. I've learned my lesson with Ruth Ware. We all know this. I've read so many of her books. I've read all of her books, and I have yet to read one that I've really loved. So why do I keep reading them? I think an off chance that I will love them, but this one, I don't know. It was just kind of, like I will say I did like Marissa. She was a great mom, and you could tell that she cared a lot for her son and her marriage, and she wanted to be great, and I really saw myself in her with that. But as far as the other stuff goes, it just was kind of, I mean, the therapist Avery, I was expecting to be more thrilling, but it wasn't. It was just kind of mediocre. So, I mean, yeah, I don't have that much to say about all these books other than like, I didn't overly enjoy all of them. They were all just kind of middle of the road, okay thrillers. They weren't thrillers that I was like overly mad about. They weren't thrillers that I was overly in love with. They were just kind of meh. And I feel like I do like to read a lot of thrillers, and a lot of times they're kind of meh. I found some that I've loved, and I've found some that I've really enjoyed, but the majority are just kind of in the middle. So maybe I need to like fine-tune the books I pick now with thrillers, I guess you could say. I don't know, but I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on these books. If you've read them, if you have the same opinions as me, or if you're just like, what are you thinking, Heather? These were all amazing. What book were you reading? I would love to know your thoughts because, like I said, I just didn't overly love any of them, and I want to love them, but it just wasn't the case for me in this recent thriller video, and that's just how it goes. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.